So it says in the Sun, according to the data provided by county commissioners, the tax increase is not a result of ramped up spending, but a decrease in revenue. I want you to let that sink in for a second. A decrease in revenue. And the reason I want you to let that sink in is because what this is a result of Democrat policy. This is what the Democrats do, okay? What they do is they decide that there's a problem, which they create. Then they try and tell you what the answer is to their created problem. And then what they do is they tax you for it to the problem that they created. And let me be specific on this. A decrease in revenue. Well, what makes them revenue? Pretty much at the county complex, it's the nursing home. The nursing home makes the revenue. That drives it. Okay? So when we're down to 60% in there, we're struggling. Even though we managed to, on the delegation, keep spending your tax dollars under control, it still it hurts. It's not a surplus. It doesn't drive the county funding. But here's the thing. Why is it only at 60% capacity? Well, I happen to know. I happen to know because I did my due diligence. I went in and I talked to the director of the nursing home, Shelley Richardson. Marvelous woman. Does a fantastic job. Super, super professional. She gave me the grand tour. And this is in the middle of COVID. And what I found out is throughout this tour, and by the way, when you go in there, or at least when I went in there, the shutdown of this facility was disturbing, to say the least. You had folks in there because of insane Democrat policies. Everybody had to be 6 feet away from each other. Everybody was masked. There was like zero contact. You have folks who are infirmed there in the final stage of their life. They need human contact. They need companionship. They need care. And they weren't allowed to be given it because of Democrat policies, because everybody needed to be vaccinated, because everybody needed to wear a mask, because everybody needed to have certain corridors locked off, because they couldn't have certain people touching things. To give you an example, when I went in there, there were no visitors allowed. Full sections were cordoned off. And literally, they had an entire wing cordoned off so that they could have it for just people who had COVID. And by the way, there was nobody in that wing. Because, well, we know how that is. The problem is none of the services were being allowed. The cafeteria, there was nobody there. Any of the gathering rooms that friends and family would be, or even patients could gather with their other patients and friends, couldn't use it. Visiting areas were closed. It looked like Chernobyl in there. Okay, but the reason that I'm bringing all this up is because it was one thing that was closed that is the important one. And if Mr. Hewitt, or soon-to-be Rep. Hewitt, or former Hewitt, actually Honorable Hewitt, if the Honorable Hewitt did any due diligence or even actually cared to do the due diligence, he would have found the same thing that I found. And that is the reason that the income isn't working is because the one income stream that they count on, that is all of it, is the rehab services. It was shut down, nothing going on there. And these folks in this place need rehab. That's why they're there. That's the difference between sitting at home and being in a nursing home providing care to rehabilitate you, to get you better. Shut down because of Democrat policies. So what does that mean? Well, it's simple. No revenue. Isn't that convenient? So the policies of the Democrats and this was national. that trickled down into the state. There was nothing that the state people could do about this. This is what they had to follow. Because anything that had to do with money, if they wanted any other money, they had to follow the rules, because if they didn't follow the rules, they wouldn't get anything at all from any of the sources. So they were coerced into this by Democrat rules. Now, it needs to be said that with this closed in the no revenue stream, what does a non-extreme, conscientious new rep, what would they do? Let me see. What would they do? When confronted with a question as to what's going on with the nursing home or the county, I would say, if I were asked, well, I don't know. I'm going to have to find out. I will look into it. I will check and see how everything is going. And once I get all the information and the actual data, then we will make a determination that's best for all. That's how I would go with it. But not the Honorable Hewitt. No. He goes in and says, and I quote, "The fact is, they had to reduce the capacity of the nursing home because of the way the budget was manipulated." Wrong, David Hewitt. Very wrong. The capacity was not dropped because of the budget. The capacity was dropped because of the policies, and because they have to have so many people per patient, so many caregivers per patient. Those caregivers were leaving left and right, not because of the money, although that was the thought. And the way I know this is because we constantly upped the money for the nursing home. Constantly. Every single time the county commission called a meeting, we came in, and if they asked for money, we gave it to them. We gave them money up until the point we couldn't give them money. Now, when I say we couldn't give them money, that doesn't mean that we didn't want to. That means that the collective bargaining agreement, which was struck with Hunter Taylor on the county commission, Democrat, the head of the department, the county administrator, Deb Shackett, and the union. It's a union shop. They can't pay what the union scale doesn't say. So if a job in the nursing home tops out at $15 an hour, we can't give them $20 an hour because it's against the collective bargaining agreement. So they all thought it was great. They all thought it was wonderful. They all thought it was going to be fine for the next 3 years. But somehow, the evil Republicans on the delegation are to blame for not negotiating the collective bargaining agreement and not setting it up so that the pay scale is the pay scale. But I digress. One of the things that's really beautiful about this is the county commissioners get a hold of the union, they get into a talk, they change the pay scale, and voila. One of our last things that we were able to do in the county delegation that I was on a month or so ago was we raised the pay. We raised the pay so much so that they were the highest paid, or offering the highest amount of money wage-wise for the nursing home of any of our neighboring counties. We're the highest paid. So Hewitt comes in without knowing anything, which I find a little disingenuous. I'm pretty sure he knows, A, he was a judge, so he's not stupid. He would know these things. And B, he was on the delegation a few years back. So he should know how this works. Yet, he tells everybody that your taxes are going to go up, and it's our responsibility to raise your taxes, because we wouldn't have to raise these taxes if the group of before us didn't raise your taxes, which makes no sense. So, in closing, your taxes are going up, folks. They're going up. And you know what? We're going to keep an eye and watch just how many people now get into that nursing home. Because according to them, more money is supposed to make it better. But here's the thing, they're not going to be able to raise the pay. You know why? Because of the collective bargaining agreement. We already did that. Stay tuned for some more tidbits, nuggets, and information that will change your view as to what's going on in your world today. I'm Gregg Hough, and this is The Platform.